Humanity's first attempt to repel the alien invaders was one of the greatest follies in the history of the species. It humbled humanity when an alien species journeyed to Earth and just started taking what it wanted. The world powers raced to engage the species and teach it a lesson. School was in session, and it was humanity that was the student, and the invading race was the teacher. After all the people that pressed for the first attack were removed from positions of power, the replacements moved to devise a plan to stop the invaders. The alien race developed a noticeable pattern. Humanity didn't provide an element of resistance to this point. They didn't feel the need to change up what they were doing. They just took what they wanted: resources, water, and people. It didn't matter to them. The massive ships would hover over the ocean's water, sucking up massive amounts of water before they returned to space. The ships numbered in the hundreds, and if they continued to take resources from the planet, then humanity feared it wouldn't be able to survive on the planet when they left. Humanity decided it was time it had to strike back now. 12 Ticonderoga-class Aegis missile cruisers, 2 aircraft carrier battle groups, 3 battleships, 16 submarines, and 100 support ships raced off the coast of New Jersey. The problem that the human forces encountered was the fact that the aliens' ship had shielding. This repelled all of the kinetic weapon systems humanity launched at it. 3 scientists studied the problem and determined that they can overload the shielding and attack the craft itself if they continue to bombard the shielding. The energy needed to power the ship and the shield was massive, but it wasn't endless. The task force raced towards the alien ship. It arrogantly hovered 300 meters above the surface, guzzling the ocean. One massive column of water raced towards the ship without the slightest regard for gravity and its laws. The admiral ordered all the ships to split up and perform the circling maneuvers. They would hit the ship from all sides with all weapons at once. During the first engagement, they discovered that when they fired on a single location, the enemy was able to focus the shielding. With the ship surrounded, the theory was that the fleet could weaken a section of the shielding and then exploit it. Aircraft roared off the aircraft carriers as land-based aircraft approached. The massive B-52s and B-1s raced towards the area. Curiously, the alien craft stopped a slow drift and held its position. Its shields crackled and popped into operation. The waves crashed against the sides of the ships as they ran full steam in order to present a harder target. The admiral yelled for the fleet to attack. The battleship cannons went first. The 14-inch barrels exploded and the ships provided the constant fire needed to overload the shielding. Each barrel launched 2 tons of kinetic energy into the energy barrier. The alien ship reacted as it brought to life its direct energy weapons. This action triggered a second phase of the plan. The railguns mounted onto the destroyers and the battleships began to fire along a direct line the laser would have to take from the ship to the naval ships. If the shield was lowered in those locations to fire on the ship, the high-speed rounds would be able to penetrate and hit the weapon systems. After 10 minutes of bombardment, the alien ship appeared to take a direct hit on the surface. Green secondary explosions roared from the small impact. The alien ship opened the hangar bay. From it poured out fighters like wild locusts. In the distance, the admiral could hear the mayday of one of his ships as it exploded from fire. The circling fighter craft dove into action. The dogfight began as 2 sides battled with the Navy craft and escort fighters from the mainland. The sound of human pilots dying and winning engagements provided the soundtrack for the main battle. On the west side of the ship, 3 consecutive hits from a battleship signaled that it was exposed. The admiral gave the order to enter phase 3. And the large missile bays on the back of the missile carriers fired the missiles at the section. The large ordnance ripped into the ship, forcing it to list. The water column broke as the machine faltered. The bomber aircraft emptied the hulls of the craft and turned for the coast. 50 high-energy warheads ripped deeper into the ship. The shielding of the craft wavered in more locations before it failed completely. The alien ship fell to the water and slowly sank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The flotilla, drunk off success, moved toward the next alien ship. It only had expended 26% of the ordnance. As they approached it, it was apparent that the enemy took notice to what they had done. 7 more alien craft traveled at high speed to the locations of the ship that they were en route towards. This was going to be a battle.